Right, our discussion topic for today is today is the strategic logic of suicide terrorism, right? Basically, we were going to study suicide terrorism. What is it? And when we study suicide terrorism, it we need to understand why does it happen. What is the purpose of the terrorist to conduct that? Right. So in this class, we are going to explore that. We are studying from this gentleman's research. His name is Dr. Robert Pape. He is one of the leading experts on terrorism. He teaches at the University of Chicago in the Department of Political Science. I suggest if you are interested in terrorism studies, you should check his profile. Try to email him. He wrote several books on suicide terrorism. I should say he is the number one expert on suicide terrorism. He wrote a book on Dying to Win, the strategic logic of suicide terrorism. Right. He also wrote another book, The Explosion of Global Suicide Terrorism and How to Stop It. Cutting the Fuse, basically, the title of the book. Now, we will not study these books, rather, we will study his original article about suicide terrorism. Now, one misconception we have in actually, uh, it is the people that have this misconception that suicide terrorism has been pioneered by Islamist fundamentalists or Islamist extremist groups, right? That is the general conception. Why? Because they have a concept of martyrdom. If they die fighting for the religion, they will go to heaven. That is a so it is an approach, or it is a favored approach. It's kind of a win-win for the terrorists, the individual terrorist who is doing that, and the terrorist organization. But that has not been the case actually. If you see the statistics in the research, you will find that from 1983, if I'm not wrong, to 1980 to 2001, the Dr. Robert Pape collected all the incidents of suicide terrorism, and he tallied them, and he
তোর
found
লাঞ্চ
that
ছিল না?
in most of the cases, around there was around 184 cases of suicide attacks, and 75 of them were conducted by LTT, right? The Tamil Tigers. So they have been the pioneer, or they have been the forerunner, or the champion of suicide terrorism. So we will explore that. Even before suicide terrorism, if you go back to the history of Second World War, you know about it. These are the kamikaze pilots. When they were uh, ammunition, they would fly up and just jump, or then go down to with their aircraft and inflict attack on enemy fighter jets, or not fighter jets, sorry, enemy ships, right? So these were the suicide, not terrorists in a sense, but these were suicide attackers of Second World War. Right now, focusing on our study, we should really understand why should we study the strategic logic of suicide terrorism. All right. So, first of all, as I was saying, that the commonly misunderstood idea that Islamic fundamentalism is the main reason, that is not the case. Statistically, that is not the case, actually. Um, that is not the case because we have seen, or you will see in the research, that in most of the cases, suicide terrorists are mostly have a nationalist goal, and believe Tamil Tigers, they have been the champion, right? And suicide terrorists, to be honest, they are not just Islamist fundamentalists, or they are not just Muslims. They come from broad cross section of lifestyles. Think about the Tamil Tigers. None of them were Muslims, right? In Liberation War of Bangladesh, you will find many incidents of suicide attacks to inflict pain, inflict losses to the enemies. Those are not those that approach was not very prominent here. However, if you have seen Godfather 2, when Michael Corleone goes to Cuba, he notices a suicide attack. So, wide array of people become suicide attackers. When we were studying in the last class, when we were studying Bengal terrorism, we have seen uh, during the colonial period, the anti-colonial fighters, they were fighting they were fighting against the British, and they adopted suicide terrorist attacks to some extent. Although that was not also very much prominent, to some extent they adopted. All right. So suicide terrorism, it appears it from a general person's point of view, it appears that it is some sort of desperate move. All right. However, if you see the context, if you see the data of suicide terrorism, you will find that it is designed to achieve a specific political purpose. That means suicide terrorism or suicide attacks, these uh, are not lone wolf terrorist attacks যে কেউ হয়তো কোনো একটা গ্রুপের sympathizer, he just collected bombs and other stuff and blew himself or herself. No, most of the cases, around 100% of the cases, suicide attackers are affiliated with a terrorist organization. So there is a lot of planning, and there is a lot of planning. Suicide attackers are prepared. Yeah, as you know, you have to get the logistics, and you need to conduct the attack properly. So a lot of planning, a lot of materials involved or assets involved. You need to find the right person to do it. And since you are doing this much planning, arranging logistics, keeping things secret, finding the right person, motivating that person to die, that means the terrorist organizations must have a political purpose, right? Or there is a strategic logic behind it. So it appears irrational, but it is rational. Thomas Schelling, scholars like Thomas Schelling, calls it a rationality of irrationality. Okay, that something appears irrational, but that is rational. For instance, this type of concepts, this come from economics, basically economics and psychology. You will find that something appears to be very irrational for us to do, but we are doing it for a rational cause. For instance, in India, people uh, blindly voting for Narendra Modi, or in Bangladesh, people blindly voting for some political party. All right, why do you do that? Because you just believe it. All right, so it appears to be irrational, but it is rational to you or that person. All right. Now, if we want to define suicide terrorism, as you know, I am not a big fan of definition. Rather, I prefer to dissect the the incident or the concept, right? So, if you consider, there are two types of terrorist attacks or two types of terrorism. One is demonstrative terrorism, another is destructive terrorism. All right. In a general sense or in a broader sense, demonstrative terrorism, what is that? It is basically you are demonstrating your strength or your cause, or you are terrorizing people or making them scared. You do not want to destroy, or destruction is not your main purpose, like taking hostage, hijacking something, all right, or just bombing. For instance, in 2005, the JMB conducted bombing all across Bangladesh in 63 districts, right? Killing people was not their purpose. They were just trying to demonstrate their strength, their capacity, and they were just trying to show that we exist. That is demonstrative terrorism. On the other hand, you will find destructive terrorism. All right, that your aim is just distraction, mass casualty. Demonstration is secondary here. All right. Both of the acts have both effects. It's like if you are doing something for demonstration, you will destroy something for sure. You are doing something for destruction, you will demonstrate. You will have a demonstration effect. That is also for sure. Uh, but broadly speaking, these are the two purposes. So suicide terrorism is the most aggressive form of terrorism. All right, uh, you are pursuing coercion at the expense of losing support. All right, terrorist organizations, they do not want to lose support, but when you are doing destruction, uh, uh, we you are losing people, or you are killing people on in large number, you might lose support. So in principle, suicide terrorist could be used for demonstrative purpose in principle. All right, that you do a big uh, blow, right, and people are concerned. You When you have a suicide attackers, that means your followers or your teammates or the people who are fighting for your cause, right? They're willing to die, but they are not willing to give up their purpose, their ideology. All right. In practice, suicide terrorists often seek simply to kill the largest number of people. All right. প্র্যাকটিসের ক্ষেত্রে যেটা দেখা যায় যে সুইসাইড টেররিস্টরা কোন ধরনের জায়গা প্রেফার করে। সুইসাইড টেররিস্টরা সবসময় দেখা যায় না যে শত্রুর হাইড আউটে বা শত্রুর ক্যাম্পে গিয়ে অ্যাটাক করে। নো, তারা বাজার ঘাটে অ্যাটাক করে, মোস্টলি তারা ট্রেনে অ্যাটাক করে, রাইট, মোস্টলি crowded place. So in practice, they simply kill the largest number of people. All right. So coercion is the paramount objective of suicide terrorism. They want to coerce. They want to coerce with their enemy. They want to coerce with the supporters of their enemy, right? যে তোমরা এদেরকে সাপোর্ট করছো, যে জেনারেল পাবলিক who are silent, who are just enjoying the support or enjoying the rule of their enemy। ঠিক আছে, ধরো ফিলিস্তিনিয়ান কোনো একটা গ্রুপ সুইসাইড অ্যাটাক করলো ওয়েস্ট ব্যাংকে, যেখানে ইসরায়েলি মানুষজন বাজার করতে আসে। ঠিক আছে, সেখানে কারা মারা যাবে? মোস্টলি ইসরায়েলি citizens who have no connection with the military, right? However, they're enjoying the lifestyle given by the suicide terrorists, so they will kill them. So coercion is the paramount objective here. So what is the coercive logic? You see, suicide terrorism, as I was saying, is the strategy of coercion at its core. You are having a friction or coercion with your enemy. What is the central logic? The central logic is inflict enough pain on the opposing society to overwhelm their interest in resisting. All right, you inflict much pain to your enemy so that they understand that these people will never stop. Rather, we should stop. All right, and uh, inflicting punishment, killing civilians or military targets. Basically, মিলিটারি স্ট্র্যাটেজি বা স্ট্র্যাটেজিক স্টাডিজ যখন আমরা পড়েছি, তখন আমরা পড়ি হচ্ছে কি রাষ্ট্রের পার্সপেক্টিভের অনুযায়ী। সো দ্যার ইজ এ মিলিটারি অফ কান্ট্রি এ, দ্যার ইজ এ মিলিটারি অফ কান্ট্রি বি, for some imaginary purpose. All right, think about the country A is more powerful, the country B is comparatively less powerful. So if they engage into war, or the main if they are in a conflict, so the generally the more powerful country is the coercer. All right, they have do two options. Number one, they can coerce, they can inflict pain and punishment. Number two, they can deny, right? Or do denial, right? That the country is whatever they're doing. Generally, the coercer gives the punishment, all right? Generally, the coercer gives the punishment, punishing the comparatively less powerful one. However, in suicide terrorism, uh, coercer is the weaker party. Who is the weaker party? The suicide terrorists. If they were more powerful, they would have removed the government. For instance, if LTTE was more powerful, the Tamil Tigers were more powerful, they wouldn't have to be fighting, right? They would have established their own state or had got their own recognition. Right. So in suicide terrorism, the coercer is the less powerful. Just because that person is less powerful, that person is attacking. All right. Here, punishment is possible. The coercer can punish the people or their enemy or the people who are in power, but they cannot deny. What is denial? যে ধরো সুইসাইড এলটিটি এর উপরে যেই ইম্পোজ করা হচ্ছে, পানিশমেন্ট ইম্পোজ করা হচ্ছে, বা যে স্ট্রাকচার বা সোসাইটাল স্ট্রাকচার রুলস রেগুলেশন ইম্পোজ করা হচ্ছে, দে ক্যানট ডিনাই ইট, রাইট? ফর ইনস্ট্যান্স আব্দুল করিম, সে হচ্ছে গিয়ে আলাক্সা ব্রিগেডের ওয়ান অফ দ্য লিডার্স। হি ইজ সেইং দ্যাট আলাক্সা দ্য গোল অফ আলাক্সা মার্টার্স ব্রিগেড, শহীদ ব্রিগেড, এটা ঠিক আছে। The purpose here is that people will die, fight and die, is to increase losses in Israel to a point at which the Israeli public would demand a withdrawal from the West Bank and Gaza Strip. All right, so they will be coercing, 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 and coercing. So, uh, what does the willingness to die magnifies in coercive effects of punishment? It's like all the terrorist organizations they coerce, but what does willingness to die or dying while attacking mean? First of all, it is more destructive than other terrorist attacks, to be very frank. To be very frank, it is more destructive. Like when you are planning an attack, you have to think about the safety and security of your troops, right? How will we get back our home safe and sound? Are we willing to lose any members? But when it is about suicide terrorism, that part, that exit strategy doesn't exist, right? So do what the hell you want to do, ঠিক আছে, যা খুশি তাই, মরে গেলে মরে গেলাম। So when they have no plan of getting out, they will uh be more lethal, more ruthless, right? uh to be very frank, you will see যে 1980 থেকে 2001 পর্যন্ত যতগুলো টেররিস্ট অ্যাটাক হয়েছে, এক্সক্লুডিং 9/11 অ্যাটাক, প্রত্যেকটা সুইসাইড অ্যাটাকে অ্যারাউন্ড অ্যাভারেজ ক্যাজুয়ালিটি হচ্ছে গিয়ে 13 জন। অন দ্য আদার হ্যান্ড, অন্যান্য নর্মাল অ্যাটাকে লেস দেন ওয়ান। Alright, so it appears it's more than 13 times, a suicide attack kills more than 13 times actually, right? uh, সুইসাইড অ্যাটাকে দেখা গিয়েছে যে অল দ্য ক্যাজুয়ালিটিস, সুইসাইড অ্যাটাকের অল দ্য ক্যাজুয়ালিটিস, ইটস around for sorry all the casualties of terrorist attacks, if you consider, around 48% of them comes from suicide attacks. All right, second one is convincing way of signaling more pain to come. All right, since uh, they have decided that we will die, that means we have more people who are willing to die. All right, so since they have decided that we have more people to die, or they know that there will more people to die, ideologically or religiously they have convinced people that some sacrificial meat. What is sacrificial meat? A myth is generally something to be held to be true, but you will not find scientific evidence to be proved to be prove it to be true. For instance, think about Greek mythology. For today, for our generation, it is a mythology, but 1,000 years back, people used to believe in that. It was a religion, right? So, but today, since there is no follower of that, it has become a mythology, right? So myth is something that you believe to be true, but you cannot prove that is true. Scientifically, you cannot prove that is true. All right. So some sort of sacrificial myth that if you die, you will be martyr, or if you die, you will die for your country, you will die for your people. So it signals that there are more who are willing to die for us. All right. Third one is suicide terrorist organizations are better positioned than other terrorists to increase expectation about future costs. Third one is related to the second cause. Basically, evil signal, since there is more pain to come, that means you will have, they are willing to escalate the cost of the war. So you, the occupiers or the enemies of suicide attackers, they will also be very much cautious about it, that your cost of the war will increase. Right now, three key properties of suicide terrorism, if we dissect, number one is timing. You see, suicide terrorist attacks are never ever uh, uh, never ever random. They are strategic. They are always planned. There is a big planning behind it now. So that is the timing that there and uh, there is always a strategic logic, right? So it is always timed. All right. So these are very much organized and coherent campaigns, right? And in most of the cases, when these campaigns, these suicide campaigns here, you will see these were suspended, these were based on organizational decision. Decision came from top leaders, all right? যে সুইসাইড ক্যাম্পেইন সাসপেন্ড করেছে, এই যে দেখো, এই যে শ্রীলঙ্কায় জুলাই 1990 থেকে নভেম্বর 1994 সুইসাইড ক্যাম্পেইন চলেছে, ঠিক আছে? এর মাঝে বন্ধ ছিল, ওয়াই? বিকজ নেগোসিয়েশন চেয়েছে। আবার চালু হয়ে গিয়েছে বিকজ নেগোসিয়েশন ডিড নট ওয়ার্ক। অলরাইট, সো when suicide campaign stops, it is always a strategic decision। যেমন এখানে একটা এক্সাম্পল দিয়েছি 1995 সুইসাইড ক্যাম্পেইনে। এখানে দেখো, অক্টোবর 1994 থেকে আগস্ট 1995 Hamas suicide campaign চালিয়েছে। Their purpose was the partial withdrawal from West Bank. All right, and there was a stop from August 1995 to February 1996, around 6 months. All right, why did they stop? Because they could engage into negotiation with Israel. And then why did they start again? Because they found Hamas found that Israeli authority is not listening or not responding properly. All right, so it is organized, it is coherent, it is an organizational decision. All right, it is never random, and it is never, since it is not random, that means there is a rational goal. Now, second one is very important. That is, most of the cases, suicide terrorism has a nationalist goal. All right. And you will find that is the most important goal and the central objective of suicide terrorism. All the cases you will see, ঠিক আছে? For instance, all the cases, লেবাননে সুইসাইড ক্যাম্পেইন যখন চলেছে, uh, তখন its purpose was withdrawal of United States and Israeli military presence, ঠিক আছে? ওয়েস্ট ব্যাংক, গাজা, ইসরায়েলি মিলিটারি প্রেজেন্স। কুর্দিস্তানিরা যখন টার্কিতে ই করেছে, দ্যাট ওয়াজ টার্কিশ মিলিটারি প্রেজেন্স। চেচনিয়াতে যখন হয়েছে, রাশিয়ান মিলিটারি প্রেজেন্সের কারণে হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে। কাশ্মীরে যেটা হতো আমাদের এই সাউথ ইস্টে খুবই প্রমিনেন্ট, ঠিক আছে, ইট ইজ মোস্টলি ফর ইন্ডিয়ান মিলিটারি প্রেজেন্স। ইভেন আল কায়দার আর্লি ক্যাম্পেইনস যখন হয়েছে, ঠিক আছে, ইন মিডল ইস্ট, বিন লাদেন really wanted that United States military should get out of Middle East because they found they were dominating them, right? So it is always nationalistic goal. Yes, most of the cases, statistically, most of the cases you will find the suicide attackers or the organizations, those organize and profess in suicide terrorism, they are fighting for a nationalistic goal or nationalist goal. All right, number three is democracies as target. I find it to be a bit biased because he's an American scholar. They think that these terrorists does not uh, like democracy and freedom. They do not like free world. However, uh, although he's a scholar, I mean, he cannot just claim things, right? He need to show statistical data. However, statistics or the result of statistics can always be manipulated. However, if you see in most of the cases, suicide terrorists are targeting democracies. All right. Now, if you see uh, the statistics and try to understand whether suicide terrorism works, to be very frank, it works. It works in achieving uh, uh, smaller goals, বুঝতে পেরেছো? বাট নট বিগার গোলস, ঠিক আছে, not bigger goals. It's like you can have smaller goals like demonstration effect. You can uh, achieve fear of the people. You can you can terrorize people. But in most of the cases, there is no change. It's like uh, Hamas hasn't been able to throw out Israel out of Philistine. All right. Uh, Turkish people did not achieve Kurdish autonomy. So, in conclusion, suicide terrorism is unlikely to achieve ambitious goals, yet they can achieve smaller goals. ঠিক আছে, ছোট ছোট tactical goal achieve করতে পারে। So this was our discussion. Study it from here. The strategic logic of suicide terrorism, American Political Science Review. It's a very beautiful article, very easy article. Just skim through it, read it, you will understand it. If you have any question.
এটা ফিক্স না করলে আমাদের